Welcome everybody to Clearwater Jazz Holiday's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. I am so excited to be here with our friend, Professor Per Danielsson. He's back with us and he's no stranger to Clearwater Jazz Holiday education and outreach. Per's topic today is jazz piano harmonization. Participants are muted for the courtesy of the session, but if there are questions, you can use the chat feature or the raise your hand feature, and I'll make sure to get those questions to Per. Thank you for participating and for providing feedback to these sessions. info@clearwaterjazz.com. Any suggested session topics, we'd love to see those as well. And all these wonderful upcoming sessions you can see on clearwaterjazz.com's education and outreach section, and the Zoom information to join them, all the different topics. And we are also excited to have launched recently a really fun resource that we call the Studio, which is presented by our friends at Blue Water Wealth Management at Steward Partners. It archives all of the video sessions that we've done with these Young Lions virtual sessions. It's a treasure of information that keeps on growing. So please check that out. This session today will be in the Studio shortly. And we also have a podcast called the Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions podcast, presented by Marine Max Clearwater. So be sure to check out the podcast and you can listen to all these wonderful sessions. Let me tell you about Per, and then we're going to turn it over to him. Jazz pianist, composer, arranger, and educator. Per is an associate professor, jazz piano and composition at the University of Central Florida. He is a native of Stockholm, Sweden. Growing up with a jazz guitar playing father, he was exposed to the sounds of Oscar Peterson and Bill Evans at an early age. After formal piano studies in Sweden, his love of jazz brought him across the ocean to attend the internationally acclaimed North Texas State University. He is an active performer, appearing often as a guest artist, soloist, clinician, and sideman. His career has included performances with many leading jazz artists and entertainers. His most current CD is his trio recording, Time Will Tell, featuring Richard Drexler and Marty Morell. He can also be heard on Chuck Owen and the Jazz Surge's latest CD, Whispers in the Wind, which received 4 Grammy nominations. He has been a member of this group, I believe, since around 2001. Per completed his master's degree in jazz studies, composition, and arranging, studying with one of the finest jazz writer-arrangers of today, Chuck Owen, at the University of South Florida in Tampa, right in our backyard. He now holds the position of associate professor, as I mentioned, at the University of Central Florida. And we are just so excited to have Per with us. He's been a participant in recent years with our traditional jazz, Young Lions jazz programming. Per, welcome to your first virtual session with us. I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Hey, great seeing everybody. Hope everybody's doing well out there. You're being safe in these complicated times. But what I found out that these virtual sessions have been it's been really exciting. I have friends from really all over the world that have presented their music and what they do and with the project and so on. So it's kind of added another level to what we're doing, and I think it's pretty exciting. And I think a lot of this that we do now is we're going to continue with that even when the pandemic is over and we resume to normal. Of course, I miss performing, but the good thing is it gives me time to practice, because as a professional musician, that's a tricky thing to find time for, is to practice, because I teach and you go from gigs to gig and so on, and family. So I looked at it as kind of like a little rejuvenation time as far as working on my own craft. And for all of you out there, I'm still practicing. I'm still trying to master this instrument that I have here. And I always enjoy practicing. It's really fun to practice. If it's not fun to practice, well, then you kind of then you're a little bit in trouble. But I enjoy practicing. So, let me just play you something, and then we're going to talk about the jazz harmonization. And I think I'm going to stay pretty basic, and we talk about certain foundational issues that we need to deal with, and how to start to build the harmonies. But I'll play you something here. Then we can check out the sound too for you guys, so you can hear me well. That's a tune I've been working on. It's a quite tricky tune. It's called Upper Manhattan Medical Group, and it has a couple of turns and twists in there that you need to work on. So anyway, go back a little bit to the foundation. Is that when I really started listening to jazz piano, what I listened to was the chords, the harmonization, of course the swing and the force of the swing and the music, like listen to Oscar Peterson and so on. But I was really intrigued by the harmony, So I remember I went to my first jazz piano lesson. I learned this tune. And as you can hear these chords, it wasn't the sound I was looking for, because I was hearing something else, but it was kind of hard for me to unlock it. So I went to my first piano lesson in jazz, and I had this wonderful teacher in Sweden. His name was Robert Malmberg. And he said, well, why don't you do this instead? Go, wow, that is the sound. That's like the sound what I've been looking for. And so he had a system to kind of teach how to get that sound. And a lot of times when I have students coming into my office and they say, well, I want to learn jazz harmonization, and they come in, maybe play chords that are more elementary chords like we all have to know. And I say, well, but isn't this really what you want to learn? looking for. So that's what I'm going to try to unlock for you in this session. And I kind of use a number system, and there is a handout that I think was emailed to you, that you can get to there, a piano voicings package that I put together, and it explains this in a number fashion. The first thing, what makes this beautiful sound, this jazz sound, is that we're dealing with all the ninths and the 13 and the 11ths, those what we call upper extension chord tones that I will explain to you. Then you can even manipulate them, because you can do flat nines, you can do sharp nines, you can sharp 11 and flat 13, and that adds a whole different level to it. So that is what we need to kind of look at and see what it is. The first, I can share this quickly with you here, maybe. We'll go share this one here so you can see it on screen. The first thing that you want to learn when you start to build these chords are the third and the sevenths. That is the essential thing that you need to learn. If you look at this sheet here, you see that it consists of the third of the chord and the seventh of the chord. So you see D minus 7, the F there, this is written in bass clef there. The F is the third, the C is the seventh. Then the C is moving to the B in the next chord, and you have F and B, and that's the third and seventh of the G7 chord. Then you go on, and you have a third is the E, and B is the seventh in the C major chord. By the way, D minus 7, G7 to C major 7, that's a progression, what we call a chord progression. And that's probably the most common chord progression in jazz, and that's called a 2-5-1. Because if you look at the C major scale, D is the 2, G is the 5, and C is the number 1 in that scale. So that's what we call that, a 2-5-1 progression. It's a minor chord, dominant 7th chord, to a major 7th chord. And so this is the package that you wanna look up here. I'm gonna do this for a second here. Let me see, I'm gonna stop sharing that screen and go back, and I'm gonna switch this so you can see my piano here. So again, here is the D minor chord, the D, F and C, G7, F and B, to C major, E and B. And here's the interesting thing with the piano. Middle C on the piano is right here. And when I play all these third and sevenths in all the different keys that you have on that sheet, as you can see, they're all kind of around here in this area. And this is like the tenor part of the piano right here, from middle C and down and maybe up a little bit here. And that's where these notes sound so good. If I do this up here, you don't get the same effect as. So if I take a jazz tune and I'm gonna play just third and sevenths in this area, and I'll probably do some more involved stuff with my bass here, but then you have this sound. that sounded? It's a beautiful sound. And you know what? I haven't even started yet with the 9s and the 13s and all the upper structure notes. So 3rd and 7 is important because the 3rd decides if the chord is going to be a minor chord or a major sounding chord. The 7th determines is it going to be a dominant chord or a major 7 chord. So those are the foundation notes that decide what kind of chord quality the chord's going to be. So those are super important notes. And if you can see that sheet, I have 2 5-1s in all the keys, and I think I did it in circle of 4th. So I have it. Oops, sorry. And so on. It goes in the circles there of the 4ths or 5ths. And it's really good practice to locate those notes. So you know, in any chord that you see, you should know exactly what is the 3rd and the 7th. Okay. And I know it's a little chat going there too, but I gotta keep going here. Okay. So now, what we want to do now, we want to get that jazz sound, and that sound that I was looking for that I couldn't get, and here it is. If we look at this, I call it voicing structure 1 and 2, and again, I have based this on the 2-5-1 progression, so D minor, G7 to C major 7, and of course going through that in all the keys. So what I have done here, I've done exactly what my dear teacher in Sweden tell me to add on some 9s and some 13s to get this jazz sound that we're looking for. And really, I have only added 1 note to those notes that we talked about previously, the 3rd and the 7th. All I've added. So if you look at the D minor chord, you have the 3rd and you have the 7th, and I added the 9th. And that's what makes it sound so nice. Here's the 9. Here comes the 9. Again, I have this 3rd and 7 here in this tenor register right here, but I add a 9th on top. And it's a really good practice when you work on this, that don't just play the chord. Oh, okay, I got it under my fingers. Go ahead and play the chord and really listen to it. For example, here, I gotta play all the 3rds of all the Fs. Okay, I listen to exactly how that sound, that F in the chord here. Now I gotta listen to the 7th, which is the C. Really let the piano ring, and now we're gonna get that 9th and listen to this. It's just an absolutely beautiful sounding note. So that's the 9th in the minor chord. So all of a sudden now, if you didn't know this before, you gotta go, wow, from now on, if the music allows me to do it, I gotta put that 9th on the minor chord. Okay? So let's move on then to the next chord, and there I have a G13. 9s and 13th are obstruction notes. The reason is we call it the G13, that if you count from the first note, from the G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. From G and 13 notes up, you end up on a E. So you got the E on top. So again, 3rd and 7 on the G. Now I'm gonna see what the 13 sound like. So here's the D minor, we listen to the 9. G13, listen to the 13. And as you noticed, in this case, when I go from D minor to G7, the 9th in the minor chord is the same note as the 13th in the dominant chord. And if you look at the 7th in the D minor chord, it's just going to move down a half step to the B to get to the B in the G13 chord. So really, we're only moving one note. And the bass, of course. Okay. Now we keep going to the C major 9. And that C major 9, if you look at the sheet, that is voiced a 3, a 7, and a 9. So let's listen to that 9th in the C major 9. It's a beautiful sounding note. So the whole progression together now. Okay. The next thing you can practice with this is that you switch it. So now I have played this progression here. I'll play this progression right here. Okay. Now I'm going to switch it. So I'm going to play this chord with my left hand. And for practice purposes, it's really good to play the root in the right hand. So now we just switched everything. We switched it from chord in the right hand, root in the left, to chord in the left and root in the right. And this, when you solo in jazz piano, those are the chords you use in the left hand. I'm sure you all see piano players go. Basically what I did there in the left hand is exactly what I showed you on those sheets. There was chords based on 3rd and 7th, added a 9th and 13ths, and I probably did some flat 13ths or flat 9ths in there too, so we will get to that. So I call that structure 1, the way it's laid out there. So let's go on to structure 2. It's the same concept, but I have a little bit of a different order of the notes there. So the G minor, I'm gonna have G in the bass, F, B flat, D. So we actually have the 5th there on the minor chord, but that's okay. The reason why that's okay, when we go to the C7, that 5th becomes the 9th of the C7 chord. So here, the only thing I'm switching is that from the G minor chord, the F is going from F to E. And then to the major chord. which is, so as you can see, it's still a 2-5, it's still a 2-5-1 voicing, but the order of the notes are a little bit different, but the third and sevenths are in every note. I mean, in every chord. As you look at the major chords there, I have labeled them C major 9, but you can also do a 6-9. You replace the 7th with a 6, and that works well on major chords. So instead of C major 9, you can do C major 6-9. It gets a little bit more of a kind of a bite to that chord. It's a little stronger. So, and sometimes you can actually play both the 6 and the 7, even though they are together. And I can show you that here when I stop the screen saving here. So that's the 6-9 chord. 1, 3, 6, 9. 3, 7, 9. And here you have both the 6 and the 7th in there. So now, okay, so that is a foundation. So the foundation start, if we repeat it here, we starts with third and sevenths. And a good practice now, so now I'm kind of moving into us, okay, how do we practice this? If you take any jazz tune, you can do it over the blues, for example. Over the blues changes. You can pick a tune, a jazz tune that you like, and just play the third and sevenths. And the third and sevenths, it sound so good. Just listen to this here. That was all third and sevenths. I just basically improvised those over some chord changes there. Third and sevenths. If I do something similar, but now I'm gonna add 9 and 13s, we get this. So that it becomes a broader and a bigger sound, and you get those jazz, you know, the jazz harmonies and the jazz, you know, the sound of jazz that we're looking for. So different ways of practicing it. You can practice, follow this sheet, and in this handout, I have structure 1, that's practicing all the 2-5-1s in a key, and it goes chromatic up. And so on. And then you switch. So you do again, like we talked about earlier, you do the chords in the left hand and root in the right. when you have that down and really practice that, you're going to have a good handle of this foundation of this sound. The next thing you should do is you should go to your favorite jazz tune that you've been practicing. If you do, for example, the tune Confirmation, and keep going through the chord changes of the tunes that you're working on. Because of course, we're not going to practice things like an etude all the time. Etudes and practicing is to preparing you for playing music. So those are different ways of looking at this. But the important thing is that learn it with the right hand, then switch to the left hand. And when I play a ballad, if I play this, in every one of those chords, there was the third and the seventh. So if I take the first chord, that's the chord, but the foundation of that chord is that, which exactly what we talked about earlier. 3, 7, 9. Here I have a tonic, 7, 3, and actually I have a flat 13. So now that brings me to another point. If you go back to that G13 chord in the handout, we have a G, F, B, and an E. Well, what we can do, we can flatten that E, and then of course it becomes a flat 13. And now we're going to go to the C major chord. What we call this is voice leading. Because we can go from the D minor chord. D minor chord, as you can see, this C here is not going to move down to B or the G chord. That's voice leading. And then we do that 13 to flat 13. So that's how you can manipulate the 13th. Let's look at the nines. What we can do there. So let's do a C9 here. I have the tonic, E, which is the third, B flat, the seventh, and the 9. Well, there's two things we can do with that 9. We can make a sharp 9. And that's a very strong chord. We can do a flat 9. Not as strong, but definitely a big difference in the sound. That's the regular 9, here's the flat 9. And why not experiment with how that note sounds? So we play this. So I'm going to go to that G minor 9 in the package. Here we go. G minor 9. So let's go to a C7 sharp 9 to a flat 9. So that's how you create voice leading. And that is, if I play a ballad and you're not going to understand everything I play, but Here I'm playing a E flat minor 9 to B flat 13 is going to go to flat 13, flat 9, E flat minor 9, B7 flat 13 sharp 9. So what I wanted to display with that, all those different chords that creates this jazz sound are all manipulation of the upper structure notes. And the upper structure notes are the 9th and the 11th, which can be, we can sharpen the 11th, and the 13, flat 13, and the 9th we can do flat 9 and sharp 9 with. And those are the interesting notes in jazz. So I encourage you to really work on locating and understand these notes, because this is so important when we build the foundation of the chords. So let me see, are there any questions about it? We're not that many in the group right here, so if you want to unmute or if you want to run it through the chat, I'll be happy to take some questions. I'm looking at the chat right now if somebody wants to write something in.
Yeah, thanks, Per. I just I sent out a request if anyone had questions a little bit ago. I don't see any just yet. So you'll just let me know if you're at a breaking point or if you have some more information to share.
Now, I got some more stuff, that's for sure.
Okay, great.
Well, you know, I can show you a couple of technical ways of practicing this, and you know, this is kind of like playing your scales or eating your broccoli or your oatmeal, you know, to be healthy and get a good foundation. It's important that you really learn this, and it's fun ways of practicing it too. We can. I'll go back here. If you want to practice, you can put in a bass line to these changes. Maybe this one. If you do that, then the practicing become pretty musical, and then you can do this. You can practice it with a metronome to even strengthen your time. How about practicing like this, what we call a stride piano? That's a great way to practicing it. And then of course, you can practice it if you switch now. You can practice, you can practice like this. You can play, if you can stretch from 1 to the 3rd, this is actually a 10th, and then you put the 7th in your right hand. And if you can't reach this, I barely can, so I can break it like this. Because what happens with the right hand, you're going to hear that this 3rd and the 7th, where the leading tones are. And then we can add on the 9th to this. So we can break it up like this. So we have 1 and 10 in your left hand, the 7 and the 9 in the right hand. 1 and 7. you can practice with the left hand, just quarter notes. So what I did there, I just practiced basically playing a little bit melody into a chord tone that could be into a ninth or into a seventh or a third. That's a fun way to practice it. So after you're comfortable with this, when you're comfortable with that, you can move on to what I just showed you there. So what I try to do is when I learned a concept, I learned the concept and I try to say, okay, how can I in a creative way practice this? How can I, really nail it down and get it in my head in a musical way? And this is the same thing as when you're practicing scales. You know, you can practicing your scales like this. Or you can do it. I show you about 4 or 5 different ways right there to practicing scales. And by doing that, I think you kind of get the material into your head and really certain things in music, we just need to learn it to the point where it becomes automatic. It has to be like, you just have to be able to sit. Now I'm sitting, you know, crooked to the piano here, but while I'm talking to you, I can still go through my 2-5-1 voicings because I just worked on it for years. And so those are certain things that you need to practice and get that, you know, automatic in your head, so you don't, you know, you can do it in your sleep. So that's of course a lot of material, but going back to that package and the voicing package that you have, they really look at it and make sure you understand what each tune does, what each note does, and what each note, how it sounds, and how you really can, you know, get it in the head and in the fingers and do it in different tempos. Do the chords in the left hand, do the chords in the right hand, and that's the beginning to the jazz piano harmonization. And then after a while, of course, there's a lot of other tricks, but this is the first thing, and I'm planning on doing another master class here where we got to talk a little bit more about the advanced harmony. And we move on from this and really start to manipulate the sharp 9, the flat 9, sharp 11, and flat 13. So that probably be for another master class. Are there any questions that you have up to this point regarding practicing or anything?
I don't see any questions in the chat feature, Per, but I just wanted to remind folks today and folks who will be viewing this that you're going to be back with us on August 19th for the jazz piano improvisation topic. So we're really excited about that. And I also wanted to share your email, perdanielsson@ucf.edu, with anyone who wanted to get in touch with you directly. Put that out there as well. Do you think that this is a good breaking point, or what's your thoughts with today?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. This is kind of like the first, what I do for the first chapter. And you know, this is a method that I used for for many years, and it seems to work very well. And this is how I was taught it. Always, one thing I can tell you all: make sure that you know the note numbers. Make sure that you know how to locate the 13 and the 9th. I remember when I started, I always thought of the 13 as being a step above the 5th. And I remember the 9th I located as being a step above the root of the chord. But however you want to think about that, it's fine. It's not a big deal, but just find a way where quickly you can locate these notes, because after a while, you're not going to think of it like that. You're gonna think of it from a musical point. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear what the notes are, and that's where you want to get to. But to start off, go ahead and figure out however you want to think about to locate these notes. And of course, then experiment with a flat 13, sharp 9, and flat 9. The 11th is a little bit of a different beast, but we get to that in the next, when we do the master class, a little bit more advanced harmonization.
Well, Per, I can't thank you enough for being part of this. It's so great to have you with us as always. And we really look forward to next session with you, and hopefully sessions beyond that as well. I want to remind everybody to go to check out that studio resource and the podcast, because all of these sessions get archived there. Today's session will get put under the piano section, and we have a link to some session materials that Per shared with everyone today that will be up on the website as well. So you can check that out at the studio, which is accessible from Clearwater Jazz's Education and Outreach section. And Per, man, it's always great. Thanks so much for believing in this program and continuing to be part of this.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and for all you do down there at Clearwater Jazz Festival. This is it's great for me, it's fun for me, and of course for the students, and especially during these times. I think this is an excellent way of reaching out and connecting. So thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Per. All right, everybody. Until we meet again, stay safe. Please take care of yourself and keep playing. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.